author during the programme. And to discuss this on its merits, I'm joined in the Press TV studios by Fattima Butto, writer and journalist. Her book, Songs of Blood and Sword, looks at the family's life through the tumultuous events in Pakistan. Also here with us today is Sami, Jalili, a British-born Iraqi curator and academic at the London Consortium, and welcome to you both. But first, we will look at the situation, I suppose, in terms of how you felt about the book. Most of the books I've reviewed so far have been much more heavily political. Here is someone encapsulating their life in just a dozen snapshots. I mean, what did it mean to you?
Well, I thought it was very political because the act of writing this book is an act of breaking silence. Certainly we see a lot of work coming out about Iraq these days, but they're all written by foreigners. You've got Paul Bremer's memoir. You know, it's just horrifying to think that that is how the history of a country will be told now. So Haifa Zangana's Dreaming of Baghdad to me seemed an incredible act, not only of defiance and of memory, but also in saying that Iraqis have to tell their own stories and they will not be quiet anymore about the violence that has been done to them and continues to be done.
Thank you, Fattima. And Sami, your opening thoughts about this book?
I'd agree the book is deeply political. There's as much of her politics in the narrative style itself, particularly the use of this this kind of dialectical, these dialectical tropes, the first and third parties, the memory, the invention, the facts, the diaries, the dreams, everything comes together in this kind of uncertainty. And I think, I mean, on finishing it, the remarkable economy with which she managed all of this.
I mean, it's so incredibly short and it conveys so much. And it left me, I wanted to be able to say, but who else was at these meetings and what was the background of that person? And did this person really betray you at the end? You really, there was almost so many unanswered questions. There's got to be a sort of sequel.
Well, I mean, are these the most important facts in it? I mean, for every, you know, there are hundreds, there are thousands, and I mean, she says at the beginning that to put herself at the centre is exactly what she wanted to avoid. Hence, I think the shifting between these pronouns. Those are the sorts of questions that, you know, whilst there's so much depth beneath, you know, what fragments we do have, there's no way, there'd never be any way of kind of getting to grips with that grandness, the sheer echoing size of the context, the situation, I think comes across perfectly in that brevity.
Fatima, you talked about so few books. Why do you think it is that so few Iraqis have been able to get... Is it just the pressures of being under the war, under the occupation? Why are there so few books about how it seems from the Iraqi viewpoint coming out?
Well, I think it's dangerous stuff for people to hear. I think for Iraqis to write about not only the present occupation, but the brutality that has not been lifted against them will be embarrassing. It's inconvenient. And it seems to me, not just in Iraq, but in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, across Asia, across many of these countries that are under occupation by foreign powers, there is a silencing of voices. Instead, you have foreign correspondents, you know, parachute in and tell our stories for us.
Do you feel any identity when you read about the violence here, that because your life, your father was murdered politically, your grandfather murdered politically, yours must be one of the most dangerous families in the world to be born into. He was just an ordinary Iraqi caught up in that. Did you have a sense of that constant pressure, that the fear that any day could be your last?
Certainly, and I think the same thing would be true in Pakistan's case. You know, with South Asia we see a lot of families assassinated by the state, a lot of, you know, public figures, but every day these are states that kill their own. In Pakistan, Swat and Waziristan, our governments have renditioned thousands of people to Guantanamo, to Bagram. And it was very close to home, this idea not only of the fear that's present everywhere, you don't know who's listening, you don't know who's in charge, but that these strong states can break you. They do it every day.
I mean, your father was effectively in exile, I'm assuming. And I mean, clearly, you can presumably safely go back to Iraq now, but
well, I mean, you take away one, one figure of terror and you place it with a multitude of others. I mean, the problem of censorship, of the inability to come out and say this, of how few Iraqi artists there are coming out and saying this. You know, this wasn't just a problem under Saddam. This is now a problem with the intertribal, intergroup oppression that there is at the moment. I mean, at the minute, one of the most dangerous things to be in Iraq is a liberal, a secular intellectual. There is an untold and essentially a genocide of intellectuals in the country at the minute, leading to upwards of 80–90% of its artists and academics currently living in diaspora, and just creating this total void within the country of any potential to rebuild itself on that basis.
Well, interestingly enough, Jad Salfiti managed to meet up with the author, so let's hear what she herself has to say about her book.
I'm here with Haifa Zangana, author of this week's book, Dreaming of Baghdad. Thank you for joining us, Haifa. Can you give us an outline of your book?
Well, this book was the intention behind it is to pay homage to a group of people who worked together in the early 70s in order to achieve or work on establishing a new Iraq, which is about democracy, about human rights. And I was one of the groups, but none of them has the chance to write or nothing being documented. So this is also documentation of that period, politically and socially.
You've changed the title of your book from In the Halls of Memory to Dreaming of Baghdad and added a new chapter. Can you tell us why?
It started as an autobiographical novel, then developed gradually over the last 20 years into what's called to be the book. So in a way it became to not just relying on memory, because a main element in the book is about the memory, the role of memory, how elusive it is, whether I'm saying the truth or not the truth. And I'm dealing with this the theme of how truthful writers are in writing about the past and how they convey the past. Is it truthful? Is it just manipulative game between the writer and the text? So all in all, it developed into, instead of looking into the memory, it's about Baghdad.
You've articulated a painful, traumatic episode in your life. Why have you decided to put such a private experience out there?
Well, in general, I see all my work, whether literary work or political or social, intertwine with the personal with the political. And documenting, and we lack the documentation in Iraq and maybe in many other Arab countries. It is very important for us. It is very important for future generations. It's important in order not to repeat whatever mistakes been done or whatever bad traumas people went through. So this is kind of the backbone. I see it as a backbone for building up a future way of looking and understanding things.
Now I look at that and I see a woman basically at my own age